What's up guys, Eric Claggett with Primal Tennis. Got an awesome video for you here. The 10 crazy things we learned at this year's French Open. Number 10, two of Novak Djokovic's biggest fans are GOATs in their own respective sport. That is Mike Tyson, the former heavyweight boxer, who I think is the greatest boxer of all time, is a huge Novak Djokovic fan, and his daughter actually plays tennis and is a striving professional tennis player herself. And Tom Brady, the NFL quarterback, the greatest NFL player of all time. Did you see him and Djokovic's box during the finals of that match? And he even got a shout out and a thanks from Djokovic during the championship ceremony. And number 9, tennis has got to fix the draws. This is 2 years in a row where the top 2 contenders have been on the same side of the draw. And this all happened because Medvedev won the Italian Open, Rome, which pushed him to number 2 in the world and slid Djokovic down to number 3. Last year we had Nadal and Djokovic facing each other in the quarterfinals, and this year we had Alcaraz and Djokovic in the semifinals. And it's really a disservice to tennis because Grand Slams normally follow the ATP rankings on seeding, but they are not required to. They are permitted to change that seeding a little bit to make it more fair. And number 8, it doesn't appear that Dominic Thiem will ever be able to return to his top form, which is really sad because there was about a 3-year stretch where he was the second best clay court player in the world. And he's someone who's been to 4 major finals, including winning the 2020 US Open. And he's actually been to 3 different major finals, the Australian Open, the French Open, and the US Open. I'm still hopeful he can find that form and return to the top 10, but it's been 3 years since that devastating wrist injury. And it was really cool to see Lucas Pouille back in the draw, an extremely talented player who's been down with injuries for several years. Number 7, American tennis is still down. Tennis, at least in America, has been marketing a lot of these young guys as the next greats, and they have been awful lately, especially at this year's French Open. And especially on the men's side, not a single American made the quarterfinals of this year's French Open. In fact, only one American has won the French Open in the last 30 years. Can you guess it? That's Andre Agassi in 1999. I expect that to change at this year's Wimbledon, especially when the big serves become more of an advantage. And number 6, first off, a huge congratulations to Iga Swiatek on winning her 3rd French Open and her 4th Grand Slam title. She's legit, but the women's tennis really misses one player right now, and that's Barty. It doesn't feel like there's any rivalry in the women's game right now, and Barty retired just before Iga became the dominant player in the game. Man, that would be a fun rivalry because Barty had won 2 times against Iga, not even dropping a set yet, but that was just before Iga really became that dominant player in the game. Somebody please tell 27-year-old Barty that she needs to come out of retirement right now and start this rivalry. And number 5, I think that there are 5 players that we may have seen the last of at this year's French Open. That's Stan Wawrinka, he's 38 years old, will be 39 next year. He made it to the second round, had 2 5-setters, and Andy Murray, 36 years old, skipped this year's French Open to focus on Wimbledon, and if he skipped this year, it makes next year even more unlikely. And then John Isner, the tall, big-serving American, is 38 years old this year. And then, of course, Richard Gasquet, 36 years old, lost first round this year. And then Gael Monfils, 36 years old, won his first round in 5 sets, and then withdrew from injury. And guys, if you're liking this video so far, do me a huge favor and hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. And number 4, if you felt like something was missing in this tournament, it's because there was a lot of players out. Obviously, the biggest one, Rafael Nadal, just a huge hole in the draw, as well as Marin Cilic, Matteo Berrettini, Riley Opelka, Sam Korda, Andy Murray, and Nick Kyrgios. Kyrgios actually had that knee injury. He's been playing on grass for a couple weeks already, got the head start, so I would watch out for him at Wimbledon. And number 3, if you feel like tennis is down a little bit right now, the level, it's not an illusion, it really is. And there's a couple reasons why. The first one is retirements. Tennis has lost a lot of really good players the last few years. Roger Federer, Juan Martín del Potro, who's actually rumored to be returning for the US Open in 2023. Jo-Wilfried Tsonga, Serena Williams, and Barty on the women's side. And even a lot of guys that were around a long time, like Berdych and Ferrer and Hewitt retired, and guys like Verdasco and Nicolas Mahut have aged out. There are a lot of guys marketed as those next greats from the next gen and the new gen that haven't been able to capitalize yet, which brings me to my next point. And number 2, the next gen and the new gen are still not ready to take the torch from the big 3, which really shows how spoiled we were the last 20 years with the big 3, Federer, Djokovic, and Nadal. And it really shows just how great they were and still are, because Djokovic is still dominating the game. Rafa won 2 majors last year, but I think it's proving that the new gen and the next gen were overmarketed or have just dealt with terrible injuries. I think it's still way too early to call these guys busts, They're still really young, but I am really surprised that they haven't been able to beat an older Djokovic and an older Nadal at 36, 37 years old. And number 1, Djokovic is now the GOAT. And if you had any doubts before whether Djokovic was the greatest player of all time, he had already had the most ATP 1000s, the most weeks at number 1, and now he has the most Grand Slams with 23, passing Nadal at 22. And be the first man to have 3 titles at all 4 majors. I'm a huge Nadal fan. Well, I'm really a fan of the big 3. I'm a fan of great tennis, and just how spoiled we were the last 20 years with great tennis, and it's still going. Well guys, I cannot wait for Wimbledon. I'm gonna make a bunch of Wimbledon videos, so please subscribe so you don't miss those. Like this video, and I hope to see you out on the court soon. Ciao.